You've propped up the government for 2 years. Now all of a sudden they're terrible because of some vague notion of corporate greed, and you're refusing to say whether you'll bring down the government at the first opportunity. What is the point of all this, sir?
Jagmeet Singh addressed reporters for the first time since he ended his supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals. We're not quite sure what he was expecting, but it probably wasn't the treatment that he received from the press today. And it was savage, to say the least.
Let's take a look.
Brian Lilly with the Toronto Sun. You've made it very clear that you don't have faith in the Liberal government to deliver for Canadians. So a simple question, hopefully a simple answer. Do you have confidence in the Trudeau government?
Okay.
That's a very good question. Not only is it clever, but it indicates, are you going to support this government in a confidence agreement when a confidence vote comes out next?
So here's the thing. This question was not the beginning of the press conference. This question was probably the 7th, 8th, or 9th question to be asked. Now, the reason why we're starting it here is because Jagmeet has been giving almost verbatim the exact same answer to no matter what question has been asked of him. So we didn't want to put everybody through all of that.
It was very repetitive, but if you do want to see the full press conference, as always, we've got a link to it in the description.
We're going to be showing about, 7 minutes of footage of this press conference, but to understand how poorly Jagmeet performed in this, understand that we were able to reduce about an hour's worth of footage to 7 minutes, and you missed nothing. So let's check out his response.
Well, we've ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau. That speaks for itself. I've ripped up the agreement, and I know that means an election is now more likely. We will look at every vote as it comes and make a decision as it comes. I'm not going to presuppose the outcome of a vote before it happens. We will look at each vote and make our decision as it comes. But let us be very clear. I am absolutely aware that ripping up the agreement with Justin Trudeau means an election is more likely, and that sets up the question for what is this election going to be about. I am very strongly in belief that this election is about two competing visions for our country. The vision of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives is a vision to cut the things that you want. They're bragging about wanting to cut healthcare and destroy universal public healthcare as we know it. So the choice is, do you want Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives to make our healthcare system one where you've got to pay out of pocket to see a doctor, and only those who've got money can get healthcare that they need? Or you Democrats who believe very fundamentally that it should not matter how much you have in your wallet to determine the quality of care and how fast you get it. That is a choice in this upcoming election. What vision of Canada Canadians want?
Pardon me, but when did the Conservatives say that they were planning to gut healthcare and make people have to pay for it?
Probably at the same time that the federal government had full control over the healthcare system in the provinces, which they don't.
I think the thing that upsets me the most about Jagmeet is that he says these most ridiculous things about the federal Conservatives that either haven't been said at all, or that he's confusing with something that maybe one of the provincial Conservative parties had said, and it's not even factual. Like, it's a snippet of something that he's snowballed into something completely different. It's insane. How can you have an opponent who is just making stuff up about you? I don't think that's permissible in the Elections Canada Act. But
well, he has two opponents that are doing that, both Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh. Why? Because the Conservatives have been immaculate in protecting their reputation. Despite a couple of minor slip-ups, some of them not even there. One of them is an editor that found the wrong stock footage for a video, but despite some minor slip-ups, they have been immaculate in providing any ammunition to Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau in order to criticize either them, their character, or their position.
Well, yeah, because The only thing Pierre has really said in terms of healthcare is that he wants to create a Blue Seal program in order to bring more doctors and nurses into the country.
Right. He wants to improve healthcare.
Right.
Now, the one who has been talking about not privatizing healthcare, but adding a private option has been Doug Ford in Ontario. So what he has been talking about, and again, we are no fans of Doug Ford, but what he has been talking about is looking at bringing in the option of allowing private clinics to be able to charge people for private services outside of the public healthcare sector. He wasn't talking about deprecating the healthcare sector for public funding. He was talking about increasing capacity by adding the private option.
Right, because right now the provincial governments have a monopoly on healthcare in Canadian provinces. They're the only ones permitted to provide it.
And here's the thing. What does the federal government expect the provinces to do for their healthcare system to create capacity when all the federal government has been doing is increasing the amount of people coming into this country, thereby crushing our capacity? And then they turn around and say, oh, well, no, you can't use private healthcare as an option to increase capacity. That's terrible. That's bad. Meanwhile, you have crushed the public healthcare system across this country, but don't touch it. So this is the issue. And I think Tanya's right. I think Jagmeet is using what Ford said to try and blanket the federal Conservatives with that, even though they are completely separate parties and have zero affiliation with each other whatsoever.
Other than the name.
So the answer you just heard from Jagmeet is pretty much verbatim the answer that he has used for every question in this press conference. But Brian Lilley is not having it.
You've said about a dozen times at least that you've ripped up the agreement and that makes an election more likely. But you've been asked several times and you won't answer. Do you have confidence in the Trudeau government as they stand now?
I will be clear again. We have absolutely ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau, and that means an election is more likely.
Clear. That's not clear. You're equivocating.
And an election, whenever that election comes, we'll be ready to fight it. And the vision around that election is going to be an important one. Canadians will have to make a choice.
But can we get an answer?
Corporate-controlled Conservatives, they're going to let their corporate buddies rip you off even more, or New Democrats are going to save you money on your rent and your groceries. That's a choice that Canadians will have to make.
An answer?
I will look at any vote that comes before us, and we will make a decision in the best interest of Canadians, as any minority government normally operates.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm not really too sure what you can do while the reporter is sitting there heckling you.
Nothing.
But yeah, like Jagmeet just continued on, which maybe is the best thing you can do in that scenario. I'm not quite sure. But it made him look so much worse. Like he's just repeating these talking points again and again and again. Now, we had watched this live while it was happening, and the entire press conference was just him repeating the same talking points over and over and over. And every time a reporter would ask a question, it was the exact same thing again and again and again.
I've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement with Justin Trudeau. We decided to rip up the agreement. I've ripped up the agreement. Because I ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau, we have ripped up the agreement. Well, we've ripped up the agreement. We have absolutely ripped up the agreement. We have ripped up this agreement. We've ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau.
And, I applaud Brian Lilley for not taking it. Like, he wanted a real answer, not this repetitive garbage.
Well, and he wasn't the only one to do so. He was actually the tamest of the bunch. Take a look.
Hi, Mr. Singh. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. I think a lot of Canadians watching this right now might be a bit baffled by the political posturing that's going on. You've propped up the government for 2 years. Now all of a sudden they're terrible because of some vague notion of corporate greed, and you're refusing to say whether you'll bring down the government at the first opportunity. What is the point of all this, sir?
Boom.
Brilliant. That was amazing.
Basically, this is a stunt. Pierre was telling everybody it was a stunt. Now, you could say Pierre was just trying to frame this and he got out of the gate first. Remember, be first.
Right.
So Pierre got out of the gate, called a quick press conference yesterday and framed this for what he wanted the public to believe. And then you have Singh essentially standing in front of this microphone, nothing to do with what Pierre was saying, but he proved that what Pierre was saying was actually right, is that it was a stunt, because it was almost like he was a robot and someone was just pressing repeat the whole time. It was like, we've ripped up the agreement. 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 And then the rest of the answer follows.
It's like cartridge bot from Futurama. You just put in the cartridge, says his piece, take it back out, put it back in, take it back out.
Well, and the funny thing is, I think he is actually trying to take a page out of Pierre's playbook. You know, when Pierre says jail not bail, or, you know, his slogans of build the homes, you know, fix the budget, stop the crime, and the rest of it. But the problem is Jagmeet extends that slogan to like 100 words, and it doesn't work, because at the very end of this, he's like, oh, I feel like everybody should say this with me now.
I almost want you to say it with me.
And everyone's like,
Cringe.
No. No. So,
well, and repetition can be useful, as we've seen Pierre and the Conservatives do.
But it has to be tight.
It has to be short. And again, think of that scene in The Simpsons where Marge is telling Bart, this town is a part of us all, a part of us all, a part of us all. It's very short and condensed, right? And later he remembers it. Now, what Jagmeet is saying, it's like super long and drawn out and repetitive, but it's not catchy, it's not concise, you're not likely to remember it. And I think in this case, you're not likely to believe it, just given what they've been doing up until this point.
Well, because now it's obvious that is a complete rehearsed answer, and he only bothered to rehearse one answer.
Right, so it doesn't come off as, you know, he's repeating it because he wants you to remember it. It comes off as he's repeating it because that's what he's practiced and that's the only thing he's got.
And all he's done is serve to really annoy all of the reporters out there, because they're like, okay, so we're wasting our time here. You're wasting Canadians' time because we're asking you different questions, and we're in the twilight zone getting the same answer over and over again. And here's the thing, folks, it's not like he was forced to be here. This is a press conference he called. This is part of his plan and the NDP's plan in order to get one over on Justin Trudeau and to go after Pierre. So this was planned to be executed this way. So this just goes to our point. The NDP have to be the worst political strategist in the history of this country. So let's hear his answer.
We have been very clear. We accomplished some significant things for Canadians. We got dental care for millions of Canadians. We're able to get the first steps on pharmacare. We've been able to get things done that are going to make people's lives better. But it became very clear to me, after having got these important things done, that people need more. And Justin Trudeau is unwilling, does not have the courage, doesn't have the strength, and is too beholden to corporations to stop big corporations from ripping off Canadians, which is driving up the cost of groceries and driving up the cost of rent. So we've ripped up the agreement, and we're going to move into a vote-by-vote basis. So any decision that comes before us, we'll make based on what's in the best interest of Canadians. But let us be clear, this absolutely means an election is more likely. And that election is going to be about an important choice between the cuts of Pierre Poilievre or New Democrats who want to build a better future for you.
So I think the strategy here is supposed to be that Jagmeet has pulled away from the Liberals when they're at their perceived lowest point, where he's probably going to win the riding in Elmwood-Transcona, and he's maybe going to win that other riding in Montreal, but that remains to be seen. And I think now he's trying to get Canadians to focus on the election's not between the Liberals and the Conservatives the way it usually is. The election is between the NDP and the Conservatives. But I don't really think he's going about it the right way.
The thing is that realistically, strategically, it would be very, very stupid of him to come out and say, we're calling an election right now. Why? Because Parliament isn't even sitting for another week and a half. So what you wouldn't want to do is give the Liberals any time to actually pivot and react to an election coming. You want this to be relatively sudden so they're unprepared. And we have another story coming in our next video that is going to show you exactly why the Liberals would be very, very much, I would say, caught with their pants down if Jagmeet all of a sudden announced an election in the middle of Parliament. But if he announces it now, then it's going to give them time to actually pivot and get their house in order. So, but it also begs the question, then why are you announcing this now?
Right. This is just so out of left field. And it makes you wonder if it's because Pierre had challenged him the other day, and now all of a sudden Jagmeet's like, well, I'm going to show Canadians that, I'm not under Justin's thumb, and I'm going to do whatever I want, and now I have the power to do whatever I want. Ha ha ha.
Well, and stand by. We're going to get an answer to that question right now.
Really, you announced that you've ripped up this agreement or canceled it about 5 days after Mr. Poilievre challenged you to do so. Why did you only come out after the Conservatives put pressure on you, and was it a mistake for you to not do this earlier?
I will never, ever take advice from Pierre Poilievre, who wants to destroy our healthcare system, who wants to cut pensions for seniors, who wants to let his corporate buddies rip off Canadians even more. I will never, ever take advice from Pierre Poilievre. Clearly, and my team can give you some more details on this, we filmed this video way before that came out. And to be honest with you, to be frank with you, Pierre Poilievre has been saying to tear up the agreement since 2 years ago.
Maybe Jagmeet should take advice from Pierre Poilievre, because it's been Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives who have been leading by double digits in the polls for the past year.
Right. And it's been Pierre and all the Conservatives have been saying for you to tear up this supply and confidence agreement for the last 2 years. So yeah, you should have probably listened to him.
Right, and then all these things I said, I'm not going to listen to Pierre Poilievre because of, healthcare and giving his rich CEO buddies money, and all that's garbage. He's never said any of those things. Pierre's never even said anything in regards to the CPP plan. Jagmeet has nothing on this guy, and he keeps making up stuff. It makes him sound completely not credible.
Well, and let's not forget that Jagmeet's brother works with Metro. So.
And let's not forget that Jagmeet's wife is a landlord.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
So no, it has nothing to do with Pierre Poilievre at all. It's a silly claim of Pierre Poilievre, which he often makes, and something that he likes to make up. But it is an important choice that's in front of Canadians. We have ripped up this agreement. We've made this decision. We've gotten things done for Canadians. And now there will be a choice for Canadians to make. What type of country do we want to build? Do we want to build a country where Pierre Poilievre throws fuel on the fire of corporate greed, lets his corporate buddies have free reign to rip you off, to rent evict you, to jack up your rents, to jack up the price of your groceries? Or a vision where New Democrats give people hope, where we lower the price of your groceries, where we lower the cost of your rent, where we say no to corporate greed that is hurting Canadians, and we say yes to people. That's a choice in front of Canadians, and that's a choice I'm presenting today.
I'm not here defending corporations because I really don't have a horse in that race. I don't care. But what I do care about is the truth. And the truth is that with Jagmeet Singh supporting the Liberals, they gave all these corporations handouts.
Billions of dollars.
Billions of your tax dollars so that they could build factories. Why are corporations not building their own factories? And why did Jagmeet Singh allow that to happen?
Why did he vote for it?
Right.
Because those were in the budget. And the budget is a business of supply and confidence. Right. So the NDP voted for the Liberals to hand out billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars to these people, and also over $20 billion to consultants. The Conservatives voted against every single one of those. So did the Bloc, might I add. So let's get real here, Jagmeet.
We have time for a last question. We will go to David Aitken with Global News. Please go ahead.
I just want to point out Jagmeet's face when he heard that David Aitken was going to be asking the last question. That smile disappeared from his face rapidly. And we're about to see why.
They're just letting anyone ask questions these days. Hey, I'm David.
All right, thank you very much for this last one. I appreciate the moderator's sort of indulgence, and I appreciate your patience, Claire, Norm, and everybody else standing there with you for giving Jagmeet the grilling here. I'm going to double barrel it on behalf of Western Canadian New Democrats. Let me put it to you, there's no way you're going to cause a federal election this fall, not a chance, because BC New Democrats would be furious. Way more important to re-elect Premier Eby. Carla Beck has got a chance to beat Scott Moe. Saskatchewan New Democrats would be furious with your caucus if you took away money, volunteers, and resources. So that's the one thing I want to get you to comment on. It's sort of Alain Bezzetti's question. And two, one of your senior MPs, Gord Johns, we love Gord, and Gord said this, and I'm going to quote it back to you. My constituents have given me plenty to work on, including infrastructure, shipbreaking regulations, reconciliation, mental health, quote, my work isn't done, and forcing a third election in 5 years isn't very high on my list. So as I say, two things. Two premiers and leaders out there, they don't want a federal election. Neither does a senior member of your caucus. You're going to vote to support every single government bit of legislation, in my view, this fall. Correct?
Oh, that was excellent. Excellent.
And dose of reality for Jagmeet. People pay attention, Mr. Singh.
Well, and did you see the face on the lady standing behind him? I didn't catch her name, but she was running for one of the ridings as NDP, and she was just not happy with what that reporter was saying.
Awkward.
Right?
Awkward. And here's the thing. Everything that David Aiken says totally makes sense, because when you have provincial elections going on, and then you have a federal election going on, it's, even though the parties are not affiliated, the volunteers oftentimes are. Mm-hmm. So if you have a provincial election coming October 17th, and then all of a sudden a federal election is announced, then you're going to have the provincial parties and the federal parties fighting over the same volunteers as to whose campaign they're going to be working on.
Well, and not just the volunteers, but the money as well. Canadians only have so much money, and especially right now. So
especially for the NDP.
Yeah. So, I mean, Canadians are not going to be able to donate to both a provincial and a federal campaign. I mean, maybe some will, but by and large, you'll be getting fewer donations than you would had the elections been in separate years.
Yeah, and you have two parties that have legitimate shots at actually winning the leadership of their province versus the federal NDP that, you know,
is probably going to be in fourth place at this rate.
Yeah, fourth place with, you know, barely enough people in the House of Commons to field a soccer team. So this is the thing. And we're not going to bother you showing Jagmeet's response because you can just watch it from the previous answers.
It was more of the same.
And this is why he looks like a complete turkey here. Like, this is probably, like, again, this was planned. So if your plan was to come out and say the same thing regardless of the question, I don't understand how any NDP voter could accept this guy as a leader for another day. This was the most terribly planned and executed political maneuver, if you want to call it that I've ever seen.
And it's such a joke to me, because you see, if you do end up watching the full thing, you'll see that Jagmeet just gives the same answer over and over and over to each reporter, even if that's not the question that they asked.
I've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement with Justin Trudeau. We decided to rip up the agreement. I've ripped up the agreement. Because I ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau, we have ripped up the agreement. Well, we've ripped up the agreement. We have absolutely ripped up the agreement. We have ripped up this agreement. We've ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau.
And he thinks he's going to be prime minister. And then you compare that to somebody like Pierre Poilievre, who thinks on his feet and is a very, very good public orator. Like, there's no comparison. Like I said, Jagmeet's in the corner eating the chucker pieces, and Pierre's the grandmaster at chess. Like, there's no comparison.
Well, all Pierre has to do is keep ordering bags of checkers and sending them over to Jagmeet's way, and he'll stay out of the way until the next election. But he's going to make Jagmeet put his money where his mouth is, and there will be a confidence vote as soon as an opposition day motion day becomes available in the House of Commons. Calendar's not out yet, but the first day of sitting is September 16th. And oh, by golly, it's going to be real interesting once the Parliament sits again. Buckle up, folks. This is going to be like nothing we've seen in the last 4 years.